sort of governance and management. A lot of that, to be honest, is quite standard stuff. They're just by virtue of the fact that of our legal structure. So we've got some information here. We've got our list of trustees, who's resigned and appointed, and things like that. This is examiner's report. So this is our accountant. This is her making her statement that she's basically happy with that this set of accounts is a fair reflection, and that we've got the appropriate systems and things in place. So that's really an important point from Oscar's point of view, particularly. So then if we come, this first sheet is our statement of financial activities. So that's showing really where our income is coming from. And so this furthest right column, we've got last year and then this year. So that's been a big amount of work for the accountant, is to get last year into this format, because it's a different accounting convention. So there's been a huge amount of work for them. And as you can see, like on the bottom here, we've had a big increase in funding, which is just testament to the amount of activity and work that's been going on, to be honest. And a corresponding increase in expenditure, most of which you'll see later is sort of staff costs. But yeah, anything to say on this? There's more detail on this later. Then if we come down, we've got tangible assets. So that is this big increase in assets. So that's mainly our van, but also we've had an increase. We've bought a lot of like fixtures and fittings during the year, which is associated with the property move and things, and the community fridge. And we've also bought some equipment, some fridges and lathe, things like that. Then you can see the amount of cash in our bank has increased massively, and we've put a lot of work into actually analysing this cash, how much of it is restricted and how much of it isn't. There's still something that we need to get better at, but we've definitely got the building blocks there with our new accounting system. Debtors and creditors are kind of smaller items. I mean, if anybody's interested in that, just ask me about it. I do know what they are, I just don't think you'll be interested. And then we've got down here a word of caution. I would ignore this bit where it says restricted funds, unrestricted funds. That's not the amount of money that we have available that's restricted and unrestricted. That is something else. So it's just a funny accounting thing, so just ignore that. Right, keep coming down. So basis of preparation, this is all very dry accounting stuff. Again, ask me if you have any questions on it. I've got things like, this is probably the least dry thing in here, the depreciation value that we've used for our different assets. Still pretty dry. So we've got a breakdown of what our donations incomes come from, but as you can see, it's not a huge proportion of, compared to grant funding, it's tiny. But yeah, we have had that coming from crowdfunding. And down here we've got a breakdown of what funds we've had. So as you can see, in the year to 2020, it was mainly CCF, and we had some Zero Waste Scotland as well. And then this year it's just gone poof. And we've got so many other different funds as a result of COVID, as a result of our CCF funding dropping, and yeah, a lot of work that's gone into that. Then we've got expenditure. So we've got an increase in contractor costs, which is sort of staff who aren't employed directly, but still part of the team. And staff costs here who are people who are employed directly. Other highlights in here, that's, to be honest, the biggest part of it. But yeah, and this detail is here. If anybody's interested, they can look at it later. governance. This isn't very clear. Governance cost. That's the accounting fee. I don't know why it's not just called accounting fee. Right, we'll come down. We've got a breakdown of our staff costs between salaries and pension. Right, here's the tangible assets. So that's the van, the fixtures and things, and the fridges. Coming in, debtors, other debtors. That's basically a fund which is which we were owed but hadn't yet received at the year end. So that's why that's in there. You can see we've got a little bit of cash tied up in PayPal, but mostly it's in our current account. And that's it, really. This note at the end here is about our rent, our building at Well Green. So yeah, like I say, there's a couple of moving parts still in this, but yeah, hopefully that description at least gives people, if they're interested, an understanding of what they're looking at when they do get it, and hopefully everyone's still, or can at least be woken up again if they if they're not still awake. How do I stop showing my screen? But yeah, what I'll do when the email comes out with the final set of accounts, I'll ask the board to approve them. But that's as good as I can do at the moment. Yeah, I really can't figure out how to stop sharing my screen.
It should be.
Oh, I've got it. Very minimalist UI. So
good. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Great.
So yep, I think that's yeah. I think I'm speaking later on about the constitution change, which should be a very quick thing, but I think that's it from me. Thanks.
Good, thank you, Malcolm. That's sort of like, it shows that there's been a lot of flux recently in Transition Stirling, from changing accountants to changing accountant software to a change in repair software to staff changes, etc., etc. But yeah, I think, would you say we're looking strong financially overall?
So it's a little bit different from a case of like a private business where like you could look at something like that and say, well, what's gone on in the past is a good indication of what goes on in the future, because we're so dependent on our funding. And it's one of the things that's been a challenge. It's a challenge for all charities, is to generate unrestricted reserves, which is what you fall back on when funding gets cut back, and it's a really difficult thing to do, to generate that. So we do have those trading activities there, but they're relatively small compared to our grant funding. So yeah, the question about how do things look in terms of the future is really a matter of what is the situation with our grant funds, and at this stage. I'm probably not the best person to answer that.
Yeah, fair enough. That was a tricky question to ask anyhow. There's so many variables. Okay, thank you very much for that, Malcolm. Does anyone have any questions for Malcolm on any of that? Nope, good. Okay. So now the board, I'm going to have to wait for, is Duncan back with us yet?
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me now?
Oh, he is back with us. That's good. Good.
Sorry.
So now the board actually have to all step down, and we have to reappoint them. This is a constitutional thing. So our current board, who is here, I guess, I don't know how, maybe I asked Pam and Pete about this. How do we do with the people who aren't here, who are on the board? Will we put that out to them separately after the meeting?
Sorry, who's
Sorry,
not?
the
Chris.
only person I haven't spoken to, and therefore don't know their intention, is Gavin.
Okay.
I'm sure Gavin would like to continue. He always does. He's been fantastic. He just can't attend as often as we can.
Okay. So I guess as of now, the board has stepped down. So we need to reappoint certain people. So we need to have a chair. Now, I don't know the best way to do this, but first of all, Peter, would you like to put your hat in, or your name in the hat for chair again?
Yeah, I have no idea what the normal way of doing this is.
So that's one. Is there anyone else who would like to put their name forward to be chair?
I'd just like to propose Peter to be chair.
Okay, that's probably a more constitutional way of doing it.
And I'll second it if we need a second.
Okay. Any objections? Okay, we have a chair. Who is Peter? The treasurer.
Can I just say something? So at the last board meeting, I indicated my intention to step down, but just to continue as a volunteer, just so that I could really focus my efforts on supporting the staff with the bookkeeping software, and yeah. So there are a couple of, if anybody else would like, I'm not going to step down in this meeting unless anybody else would like to replace me. So because there's a couple of like banking reasons that it's better to have somebody in place. But yeah, if anybody would like to step up and would like to help us out with the treasurership, then very welcome to that, and I'll be there to support them if they choose to do that. So just to say that, just to start off.
Anyone
Maybe
interested?
I should just expand on that slightly. So it would be what Malcolm's offering is to have a treasurer with a qualified assistant, which I have to say, when we talked about it, actually made lots of sense. So he felt that it was better to use his accounting skills where they are, rather than being the person giving the sort of presentation that he just did.
So does anyone want to be treasurer? Don't all shout at once, please.
And
That's
knowing that we are trying to recruit.
Yeah.
We've sent a newsletter out, and we can do some more recruiting as well.
Okay, so I'll stand in that case for the time being until we can find
And we
somebody.
promise to relieve you as soon as possible, Malcolm.
But yeah, I think there's a couple of banking things I need done, and then after that I'll be able to step down partway through the year and hopefully get somebody before the next set of accounts start being relevant. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm standing in short.
Okay, I second. Thank you for that, Malcolm. We will relieve you as soon as we can. And thank you for your hard work over the last year. I mean, we've not had so much interaction ourselves, but from what I've heard, you've been worth your weight in gold, and probably more actually. So thank you for that.
Thanks for saying that.
And Duncan is our current secretary. Duncan, are you interested in standing as secretary again?
Of course, if nobody else would like to do the role.
Does anyone else want to be secretary? Anyone else want to second? I'll second. Okay, Peter second. Okay, fine. So we have a secretary secretary there as well. So they're the three office holders for want of a better phrase. How do we do this now? I guess the other members of the board, would you like to carry on standing as board members, or would you like to stand down? So a thumbs up from John.
I'd like to continue as a trustee.
Thank you, Louise.
I second John and Louise.
Thank you, Duncan.
I'm scribbling all over the place here. So we've got John, Louise, Peter. Peter, do you know Chris Tyrrell's intention?
He certainly was indicating his intention to continue.
Okay, I will confirm that with him.
So I think we just confirm with both Chris and Gavin.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to stand on the board? I believe we've got space. Off the top of my head, I think we can have, is it 10 on the board? I think.
I think we're looking for 4 people, probably including the treasurer.
Anybody else want to stand on the board? Oh, Catherine.
So I've sent an email today to say that I'm interested in finding out a little more about it. So I think part of the process is that you have to definitely discuss it with a few people, and a few people need to know who I am, what I do, what my skill sets would be. So I'm not jumping right in right now, but I have expressed an interest, and we can have further discussions.
Right. I wonder if Duncan and Peter will be interested in, or will be happy to talk Cathy through that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That would be fantastic. Thank you, Cathy. And I'll be in touch by email if that's okay.
Yep.
And copy Peter in and sort something out. That'd be lovely.
Sure. Well,
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, well, the option is there. So if anyone does want to, bearing in mind that's not open to staff, so non-staff only. But if you are interested and you want to join the Board of Trustees at a later date, we will be more than happy to welcome you along.
Do we need to formally ask this meeting that it's happy to appoint that?
Okay. Yeah. Is everyone happy to appoint said board of Louise, Peter, Chris Tyrrell, Gavin, Duncan, Malcolm, and John? Thank you. Good. Passed. Great. Okay. So now I am going to do a short presentation. I'm going to rattle through the numbers and the slides, I think. I'm going to present on the tool library, repairs, events, wood reuse, and then there's a little bit about reboot. Donna, I'm happy to do that if you want. Otherwise, you can talk through the reboot slides when I'm sharing my screen if you want. It's entirely up to yourself.
I don't mind either way, Chris.
Cool. Okay, I would prefer you to talk over it then in that case.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's
Great. Just a little caveat as well, in that some of the numbers are not entirely up to date for reasons I'll explain as we go through. So I'll just get the presentation up and share that. If I food. Hopefully this is it. It's just giving me a PowerPoint symbol, but yeah, that looks good. So hopefully you can all see that, and hopefully it will go big screen very shortly. Ah, there we go. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Going to assume you can. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, there you go. The Transition Stirling AGM. Please forgive any typos. I think I've got them all, but please forgive. I was doing this in a bit of a hurry. So, as Peter said earlier, it's been a bit of a strange year. 18 months, coming up to 2 years now. But I think we've all managed to pull together. We were closed for a large part of the year, partly because of COVID. Then also we moved premises, which forced us to close for a while as well. There was a short period where we were open for just 1 day. So our carbon savings don't look as good as they did last year, but that's sort of to be expected, I guess. However, I think generally we've been pretty successful so far anyhow. So we've had some trials and tribulations with the arcade and the move, and some of you are familiar here with the PlusNet and Be Online disaster that we've been having. I'm not going to go into that, but that's just added to a few difficulties and issues we've had. We've had some staff leaving, some temporary and some forever. So Emma's on maternity leave, as a lot of you know. Carly will be soon as well. And Nicola has gone and become a teacher in Falkirk. So he's going up in the world. Very sad to be seeing any of them go. Really, it's a shame they've been with us for a while, but who knows what's going to happen in the future? Perhaps Emma will come back, but I think Nicola's gone for good, unfortunately. But we've had new staff come on board as well, so that's always nice. There's been a lot of flux. So Io has joined the community. Well, she's volunteer coordinator now. We have Kaylee, who's working in community food. Nina, who is the tool library assistant now as well, and much more actually. And Donna has come on and has done some good work with us as well. And Morag as well, working on the reboot. And Sam, who probably not many of you have met, is also working with the reboot project. A bit more on reboot in a bit. Hopefully I've not missed anyone there. I think I've got everyone in there.
You forgot me, Chris.
Sorry, I'm very sorry. Lee.
That's all right, I'll let you off.
Marketing. I knew I'd forget someone. Apologies. So Lee's come on board as our new marketing coordinator as well. And has started doing some good stuff already as well, so we're excited to see where our marketing goes. It's kind of nice to see a little bit of refreshment in our posters as well. It's always nice to see that. Thank you. Sorry about that. We've got lots of exciting projects on the go as well. So reboot, again, a little bit about that. Donna's going to talk on that in a second. And Kate's going to talk about the reuse hub, which has sort of been coming and going for a long time now, but I think we're on the home stretch. And the zero waste shop, and Carly will maybe say some words about that later on. Again, when that will happen eventually. And we've moved into a new home. Which is amazing. It's such a nice space. We're not really using it to its full potential yet either. And I really hope to see it really develop. It's kind of nice to have all of the transition projects under one roof, and also to have a bit more natural light coming in, which we didn't really have too much of in the arcade. So this is a nice big open space. And yeah, it's just wonderful. It really is nice to be there. So the tool library, some stats and figures and bits from the last 12 months. So number of members, current members, we have 1,007. There's a caveat there in that a lot of people have signed up and don't actually use us now, but this is the number that is currently on my turn as our total number of members since the project started up until now. Number of new members in the last 12 months is 84, which I think is quite promising in that we've been closed for many months of the last 12 months and we've still got 84 members. We've had quite a reasonable increase in members over the last sort of 3 months or so since we've been in the new place. And what we hoped would happen is happening in that people who know about community food are finding out about the tool library, and people who know about the tool library are finding out about community food. So that's working really well. The most popular item, I actually asked Nina to find out some the popular items, but 2 of them were a sawhorse. And the reason that was the most popular item is because I actually had it out before lockdown and just kept renewing and renewing and renewing, even though I wasn't actually using it too much. So I decided to go for the ones that weren't me. I'm actually the most the person who's used the tool library the most, partly because of that and various other items. But the drill and driver, reciprocating multi-tool and compound miter saw are usually the top 3 anyway, because they're the most used products and very useful products that we have, items that we have. So the number of loans that we've had over the last 12 months, that's individual items, is 652. Again, that's quite a good number based on the fact that we were closed for most of the time, and for a lot of the time that we weren't closed, we were only open 1 day. Gone are the days of open 5 days a week. 6 days a week, wasn't it? Monday to Saturday, 6 days a week, 10 till 5. So I think we're still looking good on the tool library. It's been pretty good so far. And I just need to move the screen. So we've had 586 appointments made, because we're now operating on appointment only basis. So we've had 586 appointments in the last 12 months as well. Just anecdotally, I think the tool library has been possibly not quite as busy as it was pre-pandemic, but certainly we're not quiet. There's always plenty to do, and we're still getting. I think we're finding that we're having more and more people come in week on week and month on month. Had around about 20 tons saving of CO2 in the last 12 months, based on the number of loans and the people aren't buying items that they're borrowing. That figure is open to a little bit of interpretation because it's based on the weight of a drill, I believe. So some of our items are a lot bigger and heavier than a drill and more used, some are less. So someone's waiting in the lobby. Can someone else see that and let them in?
I got them.
Thank you. Events. We've had a few events online, but happily we've been able to bring some more events back in person again. And let me tell you, that first foraging event, the picture that you can see in the top right, the first foraging event back after having all of our events online, it was just amazing. It was like discovering nature for the first time, like getting into trees and showing people things. We've had a few foraging events online, but there's really no substitute than getting in and seeing the habitat and touching and smelling and looking at things in close detail. So that's been really, really wonderful. It's been fantastic to come back in person again. So since March this year, these figures are, because our, well, since the 31st of March, I guess, the 1st of April, this is when our year ends, essentially. So we've had 13 events so far, including 2 film screenings, One is planned for next month, 3 gardening and growing events, 2 foraging walks with 2 more this weekend. My typos are pretty good, but my brackets are terrible in this presentation so far. 2 sewing events with 2 more this weekend as well. 3 furniture upcycling events. Again, another one this weekend. We've got a very busy weekend coming up. And a stall at the Wild Food Festival where we were pressing apples. And if we were just talking about, if we were using as attendees the number of wasps, then we seriously would be skyrocketing. Nina and I were fighting the wasps off. It was a little bit manic, really. Imagine all of the wasps you've ever seen in your life and double it, and then put it into a tent. That was basically what we were dealing with on the Wild Food Festival. However, it was a good day. It was a successful day. We managed to spread the transition Stirling word. Yeah, it was a really nice event, actually. And then in addition to these 13 events, we also had 9 events for the summer of activities, which was this isn't really CCF funding, but I think it's worth putting it in there because we had some events that were trying to get children out into nature and crafting and doing all sorts of interesting things. So we did some upcycling, some foraging, and we had a nice event about the Youth Parliament. So that was really nice to do something a little bit different that we usually do. Yeah, hopefully we'll do something again with them in the future. You can see an online clothing upcycling event that we had, and then this event down here was it was kind of like a repair cafe stroke training event that I ran with a new tool library out in Killin, an organisation called Recycling. They're good people, and they seem to be going from strength to strength as well. So if ever you're in Killin, have a look and see what they're doing. They've got a fantastic old building which is in an old mill, and if you haven't been to Killin recently, just go anyway because it's a beautiful place. It really is wonderful. Sit and have your lunch on the rocks near the waterfalls. You'll not regret it, unless it's raining, of course. Wood reuse has been going strong as well. Pete's been, as ever, really busy in the workshop, making planters and bird boxes and crates and clocks and all sorts of things. And he's also been doing lots of things around the new place, putting up workbenches and display boards and kitting out the shop, and making lockers for our items and all sorts. He's been really busy recently. And so far, the wood reuse from the start of from the last 12 months up to now, and again, this figure isn't currently updated, is about 1.2 tons of CO2 saved. But that's a low estimate. It's going to be higher than that, and by the end of project presentation, that will be sky high. I guarantee it. Repair service, including IT repair, has been really popular. We've had quite a lot of repairs in the last sort of 3 months or so since we've reopened. I think a lot of people have missed that. It was probably one of the most requested things through the info@ email address while we were closed. So that's been really popular. Martin Brown, our fabulous repair volunteer, has been continuing to help out, and he's been doing a great job as well. We're really lucky to have him. He's a nice guy and a very skilled repairer. Again, that's this number's on the low side. We've moved from old software to new software, so things need to be put into the same place on the carbon reporter, and we also need to figure out where we can archive tickets. I don't want to go into too much detail because you don't need to know it, but we can archive tickets, as they call them, on this new software. But we're not entirely sure where they go once they're archived. So we're in the process of asking the people who run Tudor Desk, which is our new software, where these go. And again, that number will will drastically increase. That's a really low estimate for where we're at. And Reboot Stirling, I'll hand over to Donna for this. I've added animations in, so I'll put those up as you speak about them. But yeah, Donna will talk to you a little bit about Reboot if you're ready, Donna.
Yep, thank you, Chris. So Sam, our new Reboot coordinator, pulled together this presentation for us. But the Reboot project started approximately 2 months ago. It's a £15,000 grant, and we've used that to employ 2 part-time employees, and the plan is to have 5 volunteers. It's actually been really easy to get volunteers, and we have all 5 kind of coming on the books as we speak. The aim of the project is it's a partnership project with Stirling Council, and Stirling Council approached Transition Stirling. They found out that there was, particularly during the pandemic, a lot of the people that they typically saw through their community learning programs, they weren't able to see in person, and they were hoping to get some devices out to people. So Transition Stirling's role within the project is to act as a donation point for unwanted devices, to data wipe them, pat test them, and repair them when necessary. We then link back in with the Stirling Council Learning and Employability and Digital Inclusion teams, and they distribute them to the people that need them. So it's a really lovely partnership, and the partnership's working really well. The surplus devices will be sold if we have any. So the aim is to support 175 people. The nice thing also about this project is it's got loads of other added benefits, in that you're reusing electronic waste, which can typically end up being inappropriately disposed of overseas. You're keeping critical raw materials in use for much longer. So there's lots of other added benefits aside from the carbon and the kind of, I guess, the like just keeping people more integrated. Chris, could you move on to the next slide, please? So we've got an official launch event coming up on the first weekend of October. We have already refurbished and distributed multiple devices, which was really nice to help people get to hospital appointments, and to help students that were unable to access their college courses. So it's really nice to be able to see the positive difference that we're having in the local community. But it is very much early doors at the moment, and we're talking kind of about 10 devices that have been passed out, rather than hundreds at the moment. I think that might really be it about Reboot. The project's due to run until March next year.
Good, thank you for that. Cool. Any questions on any of that? No, good. Oh, John.
Yeah, sorry, just one. Yeah, on the digital divide thing, is it purely Stirling Council that hands them out? Because there are more immigrants coming into the UK as a result of Afghanistan and stuff like that, and many others. So I'm just wondering if there's anything available for migrants as well.
There could be, John, because at the moment we've actually got more devices than.
Sorry, can I correct that? I should say refugees as well as migrants.
Sorry. Yeah, there should be, John, because at the moment we've got more devices than are needed by Stirling Council. So it's kind of up to us how we divvy those up. And we haven't been actively advertising the project yet because the coordinator was only appointed 2 weeks ago. So there are extra devices if you would like to come and speak to me. I'm sure we can get something sorted. And equally, if there's other organisations that people are involved with, then we can certainly widen it. But obviously, we would need to fulfil Stirling Council's requirements first.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Peter, did you have a question as well? I thought I saw your hand up. Sorry.
Well, I did, but you answered it really. I was going to say, is the supply of devices, strong enough? But by saying you had more than you needed, I think you answered that. Yeah,
we hope to get a lot more as well. We're literally just getting devices in at the moment from people we know, and that is supplying. You know how everybody's got a spare laptop just in the cupboard under the stairs, and a couple of phones in a drawer. So we're literally just getting them through friends at the moment. But once we start to advertise properly, I expect that will be inundated.
I think so as well. Yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you for that, and I'll going to pass over now to Carly, but I believe I just need to quickly I'll give you more rights.
If it's easier, I think I've shared my Google Drive with you, so you should be able to access it.
That sounds far too complicated for my brain right now.
I'll try it.
You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay.
So Carly, for those who don't know, is our community food coordinator. Is that your job title? Or food coordinator? Yeah, something like that.
Sorry, it's just really, really slow. Okay, it's not letting me share any content still.
Okay, well, I've got the presentation open, so I'll share my screen. You can talk over it.
Okay. I downloaded the app as well. I thought that would be much more efficient than the web browser. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so for those that don't know me, my name is Carly. I've been involved with the Stirling Community Food Project pretty much since the start, since the first week anyway. The presentation that I've quickly put together yesterday is really from the beginning of the project. I think the AGM last year was in the summer, so the project had only been running for a few months. So I felt that there was so much that's happened over the summer and with a few moves that it would just be worthwhile going through everything that's happened since the start of the project as briefly as possible. So for those that don't know, oh, and also the presentation, I did it on Google, sent it to Chris, and it's not formatted. So apologies, some things that should be in capitals are not, and it's just aesthetic, hopefully. So for those that don't know, Stirling Community Food is a project that was initially set up as a partnership project between Transition Stirling and Sarah from the kitchen at 44 King Street. The initial funding was given by Stirling Council's Lens Initiative, and since then the project has actually been handed over to Transition Stirling to look after in its entirety. So Sarah handed that over as we moved to Well Green in February, I believe. So the project was open 7 days per week for the majority of the time that we've been running, even on Christmas Day, which was an experience. We got a lot of food on Christmas Eve that we weren't expecting, so there's definitely been a lot of lessons learned. And it was actually a really nice chance to speak to people in the community who maybe didn't get to go home for Christmas for the first time, and just have somewhere that people could stop in and collect some surplus food. So we did manage to stay open pretty much 7 days a week. We've recently had to reduce our opening to 6 days a week, but we're still open Monday to Saturday for anyone to come and collect surplus food. So we have no referral system in place, which means anyone can come and just take whatever they can use and prevent it from going to waste. The Community Food Project really is seeking to give people control over their food choices. So it is a project that doesn't have any limits or any criteria. People can really just come and help themselves to whatever they would like. Chris, could you move to the next slide? It's not moved on my end. Oh, perfect. So I put volunteers right at the start because, in all honesty, the project could not run without the volunteers that we have. The volunteers really do the majority of the opening hours. We have about 35 to 38 active volunteers at the minute. And I checked today, since the start of the project, we've had 88 volunteers involved in some capacity in the project. And they're really involved for between 10 and 12 hours per day. So between the morning opening and the evening collections, it is a really significant amount of volunteer time. Some of our volunteers have went on to actually work for Transition Stirling. So Io, who was also nominated as a climate hero for the 2020-21, is now our volunteer coordinator, and Morag is working on the Reboot project. So it's been really great to see the volunteers get involved and then become part of the team. Our volunteers are really involved in all the day-to-day actions. So most of them volunteer in person, but we do have a few volunteers that help with the data collection and reporting that can volunteer from home. So we have been able to offer some distance volunteering opportunities, which has obviously been very helpful for those who have been able to come and volunteer in person during the restrictions. And you can move on to the next one. Sorry, there's just a bit of a lag. Yep, so as I previously mentioned, we did relocate in February 2021. So the project has had 3 homes since it started. We started off at Creative Stirling, and then when retail had to reopen, we moved to Upper Craigs, and now we have a space with the other projects under one roof, which has been a really nice change. The project does have some plans to use the space upstairs as well, just to make it a more dignified entrance, as at the minute people are currently queuing outside, which isn't the most ideal to access food in a dignified way. So really, really happy to move into a building with lots of opportunity. The funding, I briefly mentioned, we had a small pot of funding from the Stirling Council Lens Initiative, which helped to get the project off the ground. The subsequent funding, I couldn't quite find out when these funds came in. So this is just a mix of funds that came in from the start of the project. I think Malcolm touched on some of these earlier. But as well as grant funding, we've also had very generous donations from local businesses. Even the Stirling train station donated their night out kitty because they assumed they wouldn't be going on nights out anytime soon. So we've had a lot of really, really generous donations from local businesses who wanted to get involved. As well as that, we also ran our own Just Giving fundraiser quite early on towards the start of the project. So that's given us some unrestricted funds that we've been able to spend mainly on volunteer expenses. And recently we've just received some funding from the Invest in Stirling place-based funding, which is going to help us to purchase a blast freezer. So for those of you that don't know much about freezers, there's a lot to get into, but I'm not going to bore you with it. Blast freezers will hopefully give us a solution to freezing food later on in the evening. There's a lot of things that need to be done to make sure food safety is adhered to. So hopefully with a blast freezer, we'll be able to increase the amount of specifically chilled food, so like poultry, things like that, that can get frozen in the evening. So we'll get on that, or whoever takes over my post will get on that hopefully pretty soon. And ideally, it would also be used to create a market stall feel downstairs, and also create a welcoming community space upstairs, which would serve as a place for people to wait instead of having to wait outside in the queue, which isn't ideal, especially over the winter months. And you can move to the next one. Yeah, so surplus food, we do get the majority of our food from local supermarkets in Stirling, Bridge of Allen and Dunblane. So we do anywhere between 3 and 6 collections per day. the collections differ day to day. There's really no telling what you're going to get. And we also get donations from other businesses such as Ginger Roots and the Smiddy, just to name a few. I could go on for days about everyone who's donated. It would be an endless list. But we've had lots of local businesses really step up and help us out when they found out what we're doing. We've also been in contact with Startup Stirling. So we do receive actually quite a significant amount of food from Startup Stirling when they can't redistribute it themselves. Generally weekly, or at least a few times a month. And as well as the surplus food that we collect from the supermarkets or get donated, we also pay for a Fair Share membership, which gives us access to a weekly surplus food delivery. So it is a little bit different. The surplus food, again, is coming from different places. So it's food that's maybe not made it to the supermarket quite yet, or it's in bulk quantities. So we get access to like 50 crates of chickpeas, that sort of thing. So it's a little bit different. It tends to be more tinned products that have a slightly longer shelf life. So it's always handy to have those available. That's just some of the supermarkets that we collect from regularly. Can move to the next one. Okay, the data. I'm going to be honest, this is not accurate. I think I'm missing about 3 weeks worth of data that I need to fill in. So it is as accurate as possible for the time being, but we have received over 100 tons of food since the start of the project. So we are talking very large volumes of food. We are still working at a 7.2% for waste, which I'm quite happy with. There's inevitably going to be waste in any of these projects, and having spoken to other groups, we do tend to come up with the same issues. There's an insane amount of bread waste just across the board. So we try to reduce the amount of waste as much as possible, but there's always going to be a portion of it that we just, for whatever reason, can't give out. In terms of the numbers, I guess the real practical thing here is how many people are coming. So it's very difficult to quantify how many people benefit from community food being open. Some people visit us once a week, some people visit us 7 times a week. So instead, we've been calculating footfall. It really is the only number that we can get an accurate count on. So in terms of how many people are coming in per day, that's more practical for everyone to know instead of yearly figures. So the footfall currently is between, I'd say, 30 on a quiet day and 60 on a busy day. So 30 to 60 people walk through the doors every day, which is probably more useful than these numbers. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about data, you can always get in touch. This is just a small snippet of a very complex spreadsheet that I'm still trying to get to terms with. The other things that we also have are free sanitary products. So as well as food, we've been able to stock free sanitary products that we get from Fair Share, both reusable and disposable ones. So these are available every day. And yeah, just some other things, nice little bonuses. We do sometimes get donations from cosmetic companies, places like Lush donated little gift packs for all of our volunteers, because obviously their shop was closed for so long, so that would have went to waste because they have to sell it by a certain day. So it's been really great for businesses that maybe wouldn't normally get involved in a food project to offer some gifts for volunteers, as well as the flowers that we get every day from Marks and Spencer's, which are a nice way to brighten up the space as well. We can move on. I don't think there's much left. I think there's just a few more slides. Yeah, so community involvement, it has been a bit of a struggle. I'm sure everyone can understand with the social distancing. We've had to have 2-meter distancing, spray paint footprints outside, and it's not the most ideal for building a sense of community. But that being said, people do show up early. They do stand and chat to each other in the queue. So it's been great to see that. With obviously the funding that we've just secured, we are hoping to create a more welcoming waiting space upstairs, which would be great. But alongside all of that, we worked with Hannah from Strathcarron Hospice, and we started to put together a recipe booklet. Hannah is also just went off on maternity leave, so I'm not sure when the booklet will be ready, but we have been collecting recipes from people who visit Stirling Community Food, and we're hoping to collate them, put them all together, and have a Stirling Community Food recipe book available, or booklet available. So when we're back from maternity, hopefully that can get done. And I guess just before I go on to questions, Chris did mention the zero waste shop, so this is probably a good time for me just to briefly go over that. As well as working on the Stirling Community Food project, I've also been looking at the zero waste shop for well, feels like quite a while, for a good few months anyway. We were really lucky to get a knowledge swap with someone who already runs a zero waste shop. So we have been doing training with them for quite a few weeks, which has really given us insight into the complexities of running a zero waste shop, which, to be honest, I think I was quite naive at the start and what it really entailed. Pete's been doing an amazing job getting the place kitted out with all the shelving and the flour bins and everything else that you need to operate a package-free shop. So it is getting there. There's still quite a bit of work to be done, but hopefully with a little bit more training, and I'm drawing together a very brief business plan to try and see how it could be projected in the next year. What else? The pantry idea, I guess, is probably a good thing just to mention as well. So I briefly mentioned the paid FareShare membership that we pay for every month, and obviously that was paid for through funding. We're looking at how we can make that self-sustaining. So the idea is that we will charge a small membership fee, which, again, I could go on and on and on, but it really does it really helps the kind of cash basis first approach, which is a more dignified way to access food. So if we could charge a small membership fee, then we would then use the small membership fee to cover the cost of our FareShare membership. So it is still dealing with surplus food, but just in a slightly different way. We've started trialing recipe bags, which is, I guess, a small step in that direction, just to gauge interest, to see if people would be willing to spend a small amount of money to access the FareShare stuff that we do get. And it's been going quite well. This week's recipe bags went down really, really well. It's a bit of a hit or miss what you get from FareShare. So Kaylee, the community food assistant, and Donna have been doing that since I'm working from home, not in person as much, but I hear it's going really well. So I think there is interest from the people that come to community food to contribute in a financial way to keep that running. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, I know that's quite a lot. There's a lot went on in the past, 15, 16 months.
You're muted, Chris.
Oh, 3 times tonight, 3 times. Thank you for that. So I see Malcolm wants to just say something, so we're going to go to Malcolm first, and then we'll go to Kate to do a whole presentation. We're almost through anyway, so these are the last two things to do anyhow. So I will once again share my screen and put up the thing that Malcolm wanted to talk about.
John, did you want to come in?
Peter, it's just that Malcolm needs to leave at 7.
Yeah, just to
If you could hold that, Malcolm needs to leave at 7. So, or another board meeting.
So, sorry to crowbar myself in, but yeah, make sure you come back to that. Yeah, so basically this is, again, sorry for all of the dry stuff that I'm bringing to the table tonight, but basically this is this change that we're recommending. It was at the recommendation of our accountant, actually. And basically in summary, the constitution at the moment is kind of restrictive about how we operate our bank accounts, and it means that every time that we have to have a change in the way that we do things, we also have to update our constitution. And banking can be quite a flexible thing, and the constitution not a very flexible thing. So the change is basically to change it from the constitution from saying you must bank like this and this and this to saying you must bank in accordance with a separate document, and that so it's constitution is just referring to this other document, and yeah, so that's what that change in wording is doing. I mean, should I read it out?
I did email it out to everyone, so everyone should have had the opportunity to read it first.
Right, okay. What I might do though is show the document which it's referring to.
Go for it.
Okay. Let me just get that up. So share screen, share content, window. Right, so this, what this document does is basically says that, what types of payments and what kind of, it's actually not just covering banking, but also, if somebody wants to sign a contract in the name of Transition Sterling, what are the values? If it's up to £1,000, then these people can do it. If it's over £1,000, then they need to get current board member, and it relates to what permissions are there in order to make certain payments out of a bank account. So this is just putting in the sort of policies which our bank doesn't offer these restrictions itself, so we have to do it ourselves, kind of thing. So that's basically what's going on with this document. And again, this document is, if anybody is interested, they can see that. So that's it. So yeah, I guess a vote is what's required for the minutes.
Aye.
I think if we do it another way, does anyone have any objections?
Yeah.
To the change? No, passed unanimously.
Wow. Exciting stuff. Okay.
We bow down to your judgment. Good. Okay. Thank you for that, Malcolm.
I'm gonna jump out, but thanks very much, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Good. Take care. See you
Bye.
later. John, did you have a question or a comment? John Preston.
Did have, yeah, funnily enough. I'm trying to remember what it was. Sorry, I'm on mute. I might know or not. I've completely forgotten what I was going to ask now. I'll come back to it later, maybe.
Okay, if it does.
You were going to say how brilliant the community food project was.
I think you were.
It is. Everything's been brilliant, given the amount of changing premises, COVID, change to funding, and I don't know, whatever else. The flux between people as well, so amazing. Sorry.
I did have a question. You just reminded me that for Carly. See, because we've had the issue, I believe, where supermarkets have been giving us items that are either out of date or they give them as in the evening and we're not allowed to give them out the following morning. Is that counted in our waste, or is that secondary to our waste?
No, that is counted in our waste. It's a very, very complicated topic. Every distribution channel has different terms and conditions. So now that we're in the process of moving everything over, I'm currently trying to put everything in documents before I leave as to what can get put in the freezer, which is different between Co-op and Tesco and Marks and Spencer's. They've all got different rules. But the way that it works just now is really the supermarkets will want you to take everything or nothing. So we just have to take the waste, even if it is unsuitable for us to redistribute it. And then our volunteers have the wonderful job of decanting it and washing out the plastic and whatever else, and recycling as much as we can. So it's not ideal. I think if we had the capacity to, it would be worthwhile separating the waste that's not directly, not caused by us, but not directly associated with the project, like bread not just being taken, but stuff that comes from the supermarket that we physically can't redistribute. But again, it's another layer to add into the daily tasks and data. But in an ideal world, it'd be great to break that apart. I am trying to work with the supermarkets as much as possible, so it has reduced significantly. I'd say since one of our freezers broke and the supermarkets got used to giving us less, so it has reduced quite a bit, but it is an ongoing issue, which our volunteers have all stepped up to the maybe not so nice task, which yeah.
I always feel incredibly sorry for them whenever I see them doing it.
I know. I wouldn't ask anyone to do anything I've not done myself. So I did spend several days over Christmas and New Year. Pretty sure I spent a full day on, like, I don't know, the day after Boxing Day, just decanting cream of all things and coleslaw. Yeah, it's not ideal. So it's something that I think it's highlighted. Obviously, there's a lot of issues that are out with our control, but we're working on it.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing worse than what you had to do with that the transition van, the old transition van as well. Oof.
Yeah.
We're not going to go about that because people might be having their lunch soon or the dinner. Okay, we'll go over to Kate for a quick chat on the reuse hub, and then we'll be coming to closing remarks after that. So take it away, Kate.
Okay, I will give you a very quick whistle-stop presentation. Where are we? Oh, no.
Yep.
There we go. Now, see what you can see.
We can see that, yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so just for those of you who don't know what the reuse hub is, I've just pulled some very quick slides together to try and give a quick overview. So that's quite small on my screen. Can everybody see that?
It's actually the best so far on my screen, Kate. So yeah, looks good to me.
Right, it's just I've got a different view, I think. Okay, so the vision of the Stirling Reuse Hub project is to have a zero waste Stirling, a circular economy with economic benefits contributing to inclusive growth. Now, the main aims and objectives to achieve this is, one, we want to reduce waste and reduce carbon emissions. This needs to be a financially sustainable project, and we also want to influence consumption habits to stimulate further savings. And at the same time, we want it to contribute to inclusive growth in the local, in Stirling region. So we're going to focus on this initially by collecting reusable waste from the Lower Palmaise house waste, the recycling centre, and that should immediately reduce the landfill there. And Stirling Council have got a couple of containers set aside there, which we will have a 3-year agreement with them for exclusive use for that. So we will have staff down, staff and volunteers down at the recycling centre to capture reusable waste down there, and speaking to the service users there. From there, we will then take it to the Stirling Reuse Hub. I've suddenly got an echo. Yeah, so from there we'll take it to the reuse hub, where we'll process the goods and materials, make them available for reuse, for repair, and for redistribution to other third sector organisations that want to use it. The project's funded by the Circular Economy Investment Fund, which is coming to a close next year, and this has been managed by Zero Waste Scotland. There's a lot of changes just recently, so we've got a lot of activities and ideas that we wanted to do, but we're being restricted by the funds on which activities we can do to start with. At the same time, we're being restricted by more and more items that we need to run the fund in its original form. So at the moment, we're having those kind of conversations. Zero Waste Scotland have got their own challenges, like every other organisation, just to do with the cuts and the wrap up of this fund. So at the moment, we are just reviewing the project for about 4th or 5th time, but we're just about there. It is imminent. The funding finishes in December 22, so this will be the last panel review, or the last hurdle to get over for doing this. The other issue we had was, first of all, yes, as well, I should mention the partners that we've worked with up to now to get this far: Forth Environment Link, Recyclebike and Stirling Council, who are all on the steering group as well. And we'll continue to work with them as we go forward, along with other partners like Creative Stirling, the Loch Lomond, the park across there, Strathcarron Hospice as well. And we want to engage with all the local charity shops who at the moment lead the field in reuse. So we want to try and coordinate all those things to create a service to further stimulate the reuse of materials. So yes, this is me. Last hurdle. The expression on the face says it all. We're definitely going to get there. We've got a building in sight. We're currently negotiating the lease. It's all terribly dry, uninteresting stuff at the moment, just trying to get the lease contract signed off, get an agreement with Stirling Council. They're really being very supportive now. They've signed a guarantor agreement, so they're really up for making this work. The landlord, they're happy with everything. We were going to be hoping to be moving in on the 1st of October, but because of the delays with the funders, it may be the middle of October. This is what the warehouse looks like. It's full of pallet racking at the moment, which I think we're going to be gifted. So first job will be to get someone in to sell it to a pallet racking company and take half of it away, because we won't want it all. 4 Borrow Meadow Road in Stirling is where that warehouse is, and I think that's everything that I've got to say. It's also going dark, so I can't see my notes. Yeah, I think that's all I can say. I don't really want to go into too many of the other activities or fundraising ideas that we have at the moment until we can review what the new rules are and new restrictions are. So that's it. If anyone has any questions, I'll stop sharing so I can see.
Yeah, can I just ask quickly, what was the address of that place again? 4 Borrow
Meadow Road. So
Meadow Road, okay.
Where if you go to the peak and just through the lane across from the bus station at the peak, it's virtually the building right across the road there. So it's handy for public transport too.
Oh, I nearly did it again. Good, thank you for that. Any other questions? Yeah, it's good. I can't wait to see this off the ground. It has been a long, hard slog for a while now, hasn't it? There's been barriers put in place and things going ahead, then not going ahead. And Travis Perkins.
Yeah, it has been. But one of the wonderful things about the journey is coming across more and more people who can really see a space for themselves involved in the reuse hub. And I think everybody is really supportive of it and looking forward to getting started and being involved in one way or another. So there's so many things we can do just to make it work for everybody, really.
Good stuff. Good. Well, thank you for that, Kate. That sort of brings us to closing remarks. Oh yeah, thank you, Kathy. There are some. We're doing so many things. Whenever I'm at an event and I'm trying to tell people what we do, I feel like I'm just like talking for 10 minutes before we actually start the event, and I always forget something. We're doing so much, and we've got such a wonderful team, and I think it's really great to have a team. How everyone sort of has their own specialty and their niche, but generally everyone works really well together, and we become this unstoppable force, whether it's volunteers, staff, board, everyone in between, outside organisations. And that sort of brings me to, there's a few absentees, but I want to extend a really massive thank you to volunteers, because volunteers really are the lifeblood of Transition Stirling. We couldn't do half the things that we do without volunteers, whether they're helping with marketing, with the community food, with events, with everything really. Soon to be with the tool library, we'll be getting a few there. And thank you in Essentia to past board trustee members as well, who couldn't be here. It's one of the best places I've ever worked, Transition Stirling, and I've worked in some really fantastic places as well, some really awful places too. But Transition Stirling is a wonderful place to work, and it's the people in the community and the projects that make it really. So thank you to everyone. Anyone got any other closing remarks they would like to make? Oh, thank you, Lee. Even though I did forget your name. Peter, I wonder if you, John, you got a...
Yeah, well, I did say earlier I should have maybe held my tongue actually for a bit, but no, especially all those people who've been volunteering and problem solving and seeing how we're going to do things through the lockdown, you know, because I've missed a lot of that action, unfortunately. So, also the people who raised funds as well. I think there was a teenage boy that raised a certain amount of money. There's a lot of funds come from the community as well. So thanks to all those as well. And you did mention board members as well. I think we've lost Naomi and
Rosa.
Simon as well, unfortunately. So and Rosa as well. So really good board members as well. So yeah. So thanks to an awful lot of people actually. So I'll pass over to whoever's next.
Peter, please, if you would like to say a few words as our chair.
All right. I mean, I suppose I would absolutely echo John's thanks. You know, as you say, we are the sum of all our parts, and it is all our parts, people who raise money, people who volunteer, people we employ, you know, people who give us stuff. And I, you know, I think what we've just watched for the last hour and a half shows what I tried to say at the beginning. You know, it has been a fantastically effective year despite everything else that was going on. And, you know, finishing off with Kate showing that presentation, you know, touch wood that we get it off the ground. We've got the 12 months funding. We've got the council behind us. You know, there really is an opportunity to create something extra fantastic on top. The sort of I don't know how to have a good analogy. It's almost the big thing that all the little bits have been fitting into. So I am really hopeful of what we can achieve in the next 12 months.
Good, thank you very much. Just another very quick thank you to Nina and Pam for your behind the scenes help throughout this meeting today. Good, all right, well, I think
behind her scene.
Yeah, yeah. I think my highlight was when Pam had balloons behind her and then she just had a big smile on her face.
Chris, can I?
Go for it.
Just wanted to thank you for putting in the hard work to make this meeting happen. You're fantastic, man, and we have great staff, great volunteers and trustees, and it's really exciting to see everything going so positively. Please go out and tell everybody what we're trying to do, and we would love to get more support and support the community as well.
Thank you, Duncan. Good, yes, I agree. Okay, I don't like long goodbyes, so thank you, good night, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Have your tea if you haven't done so already, and come and see us in Wellgreen sometime if you haven't been already. Have a look. It's a great space, and follow us on social media and all that sort of stuff, all that jazz. Good, thank you, good night.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks all.
Oh, I was going to make a message to Kelly. Just said as the chair of the CESREC board, she was here, so that's interesting.
Yeah, she's been quite regular at the tool library as well.
All right. Okay. Cool.
She's our newest member actually. I told her about the AGM and membership and said yes, send us your details. So she's a member of Transition Board now as Transition Stirling now as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, really well done, Chris.
Thank you. I felt like I was thinking a few times, but I think it went okay. I think as long as the public see the polished article, I think it was all right.
Yeah. No, I think we were okay.
Yeah, I think so. We had a decent turnout as well, actually.
Yeah, is there a way to tell how many people?
Yeah, I saw 16 at the height. Yeah.
Right.
There was one person Nina was talking with on Info app that was struggling to get in. Who was the one I said at the start that I expected to be there, but yeah, she couldn't, unfortunately. But yeah,
okay.
But yeah, that was good. That was a good...
Yay! Well, I'll let you go because your tea's probably waiting.
It is, yeah. I can hear Gazelle clanking around in the kitchen, so that should be